Hey everybody, this week we begin a new series called FAM. This will be a 4-week series in which, for week 1, we're going to talk about how loving your family is how faith can make an impact. For week 2, how your family doesn't have to be perfect for God to use it. Week 3, when your family changes, God is with you. And then the last week we'll talk about how sometimes friends are more like family. Our Bible verse for this series will be 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 7. Family is the one thing that we all have in common, yet our families can look really different from each other. In fact, my family is very different than Miss Eunice's family. I grew up with a single mom who was very protective, very strict in a sense, but also gave me a lot of freedom to do things. Miss Eunice, on the other hand, grew up with a lot of rules, and she was raised in a very strict way by her parents. So then when it came time for us to form our own family, it's really interesting how we get to see how the different ways that we were raised comes through in our own family. In fact, the other day as we were playing Uno, we were having a long Uno game, and there's a part of Uno where you have the opportunity to get one card that gives you the opportunity to swap cards with one another. So Miss Eunice is looking at Noah, who has just one card, and she had a pretty large stack of cards with her. When it came time for her to swap cards with Noah, she gave him these swap cards with him, and it ended up being that Noah not only had one card, but he was sitting on a bunch of cards. So imagine him not only giving Miss Eunice one card, but here she is swapping not just one card, but a bunch of cards that came out of nowhere. So even at home, I tend to be a little bit more patient. Miss Eunice is not as patient as I am, but she's more patient in other things, the way we drive. The boys, Nathan and Noah, are also very different. But yet, when you put us all together, we are one unit. We are one family. So when we talk about families, we can't just simply define one specific family, because families can be very diverse. Families can be and look very different. For example, family can be the biological family we live in, or the biological parents we've never met. We also can have extended family members. 3, family can be people who we aren't related to but have become part of our family. 4, the foster family that we live with, or the family who adopted us. It could be our chosen family, like a friend group or a small group. No matter what our family may look like or has looked like in the past, we all come from or are part of a family of some kind. So not everyone likes being around their fam because it can be stressful, it can be unpredictable, and it can be sometimes exhausting. The dynamics of family life can be complicated, especially during this COVID season where we are with each other a little more than usual. So this tension, the bumping heads, the disagreements can come because we are around each other a little longer. When you add faith to the family equation, it can create tension. Your family is obviously very important to you, and your family doesn't, let's say, believe or take what you believe in seriously. That can add conflict. Another thing that we're experiencing is the fact that now school is not somewhere out there where you can go and have some time away, but now not only is school at home, but work is at home. So our balance, our lives have been turned upside down. There are also families where you might be a person that wants to attend church, but your parents may not want to. So if faith can create tension in our families, how do we make sure that faith is actually helping to make our families better? That is the truth behind our conversation. If us attending church, if us being part of a church community, if that relationship is not making our families better, or even if our family life is not what the church life is, then we have a problem. because everything needs to start here at home. So healthy families result in healthy churches. Emotionally healthy homes and families result in emotionally healthy churches. In fact, that's a book that I read many years ago in one of my college courses for ministry. So the truth, when Jesus had his last meal with his close friends, he and his followers before his death and resurrection, he gave us this command. And that command is found in John 13:35. Jesus said that loving one another is the most important thing that we can do, and it's the way that our faith can impact others. And remember, loving one another starts at home. While faith can create tension in our family, it can also make our family situation better if we approach our family members with love. In fact, the Bible says that love covers a multitude of sins. Speaking of love, we have here the most loving dog in the world. I'm a little biased. All right, so back to our 1 Corinthians verse. Paul showed us exactly what it looks like to love others. You may have asked yourselves in the past, like, what does love look like? Love is shown by our actions and by how we treat one another. Love is shown when we're patient. Love is shown when we're patient, when we're kind, humble, respectful, and selfless. When we do not get upset easily or hold grudges against one another. Love protects, love trusts, and love perseveres. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7. Loving your family is how faith can make an impact. So here's our application piece. We can try and love the people in our family just a little bit more. Number 2, this week, ask yourself what it looks like to love your family. Number 3, pick one thing that you can do to show love, the love that Paul listed in his letter to your family. Here's a little story about that. As Miss Eunice and I were having lunch today, I was thinking of a church brother that I really, really miss. I mean, I miss everybody, but I was thinking of this one particular brother today. And I turned to Miss Eunice and I said, hey, I really miss this brother from church. And she gave me like a really good response. She said, why don't you tell him? You know what? And I said to myself, you're right. So I grabbed my phone and I texted him and I said, hey, I miss you, man. And what Miss Eunice shared with me is so important because we might be thinking of a person or even someone within our own family. In fact, last time we met, we talked about how important it is to tell our family members and tell the people that are close to us how much we value them, how much we appreciated them. So I grabbed my phone and instead of thinking, yeah, that's a good idea, I'll just do that later, right there on the spot, I just sent my friend from church a text. And he immediately responded and said, I miss you too. And so those opportunities to check in with one another, those opportunities to remind our family, and when I say fam, not only your immediate family, but also your church family, especially now with COVID and where we are a little bit distant from one another. Remind people, remind your fellow youth members, Fusion youth, friends that you haven't seen for a while, brothers and sisters in the faith, because that's who we are. We are God's family. Brothers and sisters, remind them, hey, I miss you. How are you? How's life? How's school? How are things going for you? You don't know what impact you can make just by a simple act like that. I love the way the lesson frames this piece. It says, love is what changes people and what faith is all about. And then finally, loving your family is how faith can make an impact. It starts at home. In fact, when Jesus commissioned his followers to take the gospel to the world, he said, begin here. Begin here in Jerusalem. Then you guys can go out to Judea. Then you can go to Samaria and to the ends of the earth. But basically, guys, it starts at home. If we want to save the world, if we want to love people, we need to start at home. We need to start with our family. And then we can branch out and see things change. Not only in our home and in our families, but in the community we live in, with our neighbors, with other family members, friends, we can change cities, we can change our nation. If we just think about that for a moment, especially in the times that we're living in, what would happen if people really decided and chose to love one another? In spite of their differences, in spite of those things that, divide us, what if people chose to see each other as family? If they chose to love one another in the way that Jesus commanded. That is how the world will see that we're his followers.
So why are you wearing that shirt?
What shirt? Oh, this shirt?
Your mariachi shirt.
Oh, well, today we had at our school, it was the pre-Halloween day, and so everybody had different costumes that they chose to wear. I didn't really have time to get a costume, and we didn't agree on a theme, so I wore my mariachi shirt, and obviously you guys know that I'm a Spanish teacher, so it fits.
Until next time.
We love you guys.